Welcome to DasGeek. This is something I have fallen in love with. Let me tell you right off the bat, 10 out of 10, geek squeal worthy, one of the first items of the year to truly get this. Absolutely have fallen in love with the Synology NAS. It talks about on the box that it can do file sharing and backup and media server stuff, but it's so much more than that. If they were to put all the features this thing has in it on the box would have to be about 6 times the size, and we're going to go through that. I have been just absolutely blown away by the compatibility this has with Linux. They've written all of the software to work perfectly with it. This is such a well-designed piece of hardware. I'm going to show you from beginning to end how to set this up. The one mistake I made was probably, I wish now, knowing how much I love this thing, that I got a little bit upgraded version from this. They make one that's a little more expensive than the SE version, slightly upgraded, and I wish I would have spent a little more money on the hard drives. I got some HGSTs because of cost, but you're going to see how much I love this. So let's get into the installation of this device, and then I'm going to show you why I've fallen in love with this thing so much. So here we go. Welcome back. Now I have two of the hard drives that I'm going to put in here. I have the HGSTs. These are 7200 RPM, 3 terabytes a piece hard drives. Now, these aren't the preferred hard drives to put in a Synology NAS station, but I have to be honest, I had to keep the price down. The preferred one, I believe, is the Iron Wolves by Seagate or the Red Drives by Western Digital. A little out of my price range. I've heard good things about these HGSTs though, except they can be a little loud, but thankfully this is going to be too close to my main PC when we set up this NAS, so I'm not too worried about the sound. Now, I've never done one of these before, so we're going to do it live together. I'm going to put the hard drives in, mount them, and then of course we'll boot it up and install the software of Synology, which they have Linux ports for, which is fantastic, so I can just get that package and be able to use this. Which package do I need? Well, there was a bunch on the Manjaro repository for software, so we've got a bunch of different options out there. There was some cloud-based management, there was the local management tools, there were several others out there, so they've definitely written a lot of software depending on what you're wanting to do with this. So let's take a look inside. We've got to figure out how to get it open. There we go. So plastic cover, and it looks nice, you know, but it's just some molded plastic. And inside, very similar to the inside of a PC and the mounting brackets for a standard PC. And this has, of course, the circuit board underneath here, under this protective shell. You've got a nice little fan, and you got your SATA port connections there. And there are 2 of them to slide in. So one of those looks like it might be a little tight, but this can take 3.5-inch drives or 2.5-inch apparently. Always need a knife handy. Open our electrostatic bags here. So that's our hard drive there. Like I said, nothing too fancy here. I got a really good deal for 6 terabytes of storage, which at this moment is plenty enough for the videos and things that I'm doing. So I'm going to go ahead and slide this in. It looks like it's going to be, no, it wasn't a tight fit. I was just hung up on something. So there, that literally just sat right in place. And you can see the mounting holes there where we're going to put the screws. And they give you 2 bags of screws, but they do not label them. But it's pretty easy to figure out what's for what. You only get 3 of these, so that must be for the cover. And you get a whole bunch of these, which is for the hard drive. So I'm going to put some screws in here. This is riveting video right here, watching somebody mount their hard drive. There's a joke there somewhere. And in theory, this is just going to slide right in. And indeed it does. Perfect fit. Really excited to see this in action. What I've been using up to this point is a Western Digital MyBook Live that I received as a gift, and I've enjoyed it, but it's definitely primarily made for Windows. They didn't write any drivers for that, for their software on Linux, so I'm happy to go to Synology here, who supports Linux and has all their packages available for everyone. Makes it much easier. Not that you can't make the MyBook Live work on your own thanks to Linux community and all their support, but I like to support companies that support Linux. No tucks, no bucks. So Synology, you get the bucks because you support the tucks. So now it's quite a bit heavier than it was before. The other downfall to the Western Digital MyBook is it's only a single hard drive. So if one fails, guess what? Your data is all gone still. So not exactly the most secure setup. All right, slide that cover on. You ever have one of those trusty screwdrivers that they're perfect? This is a PM screwdriver. Was that Popular Mechanics? I've had this thing forever. It's even slightly bent, but it always torques everything perfectly. It's a fantastic screwdriver. All right. Those screws were a little more harder, a little more difficult to get in than I expected. All right, so we've got those two screws in. This is the front. Got a power button, disk 1, disk 2, LAN, and status. And so now we're going to connect this up. We're going to connect the Ethernet port up to my router, and then we're going to connect to it from Linux. So the next thing you're going to see in this video will be on my Linux machine. All right, so I've never installed Synology Disk Backup NAS system before, but just going here to Octopi and looking for Synology, I was able to find their software here. So they have Synology Assistant, Synology Cloud Backup, Synology Cloud Station Backup, and let me install the Assistant here, because I believe this is what helps you get it set up. There we go, Synology Assistant. Do you agree to their terms and service? I've read all that. So we'll go ahead and click Setup. It says install the latest DSM for new features and security fixes. Install now. It's going to remove all the data on the hard drive. So the DS216se is one of their more personal based drives. They obviously have bigger ones meant for enterprise and more powerful ones even for home use. This is entry level version, I would say, and I got it for a great price on eBay. The definition for it, or description, that Synology gives is easily back up your devices to DS216se, a simplified all-in-one solution to manage your media and data, designed for cool and efficient operation with extremely low power consumption. The noise dampening design fits perfectly anywhere. It's eco-friendly. 5.12 width in HDD, hibernation, 13.73 width in access, 101 megabytes a second reading performance. You can easily, they've got several softwares, you can stream content through it as well. Turn your Synology NAS into a home media hub and stream your digital contents to computers, mobile devices, Samsung TV, Roku players, Apple TV, Google Chromecast, and DLNA services. Seamless integration with your devices, DS audio, DS photo, DS video, disk mirroring for redundancy, with the support for RAID 0 and 1, JBOD, and 2 basic volumes. Users can easily choose among RAID 1, RAID 0, or JBOD for additional security, improved performance, provide more flexible storage options to suit individual needs. So this kind of shows a little graphic here that I'll share, and you can see that it shows W splitting between the hard drives here, the data. So you've got in a RAID 0 format, utilizing both hard drives for maximum space usage. Here you're creating an exact copy of one to the other, RAID 1, which is most likely what I'm going to choose here, because I'm not as concerned with the amount of storage that I have at 3 terabytes. I don't have, my videos don't take up that much space yet. Eventually I'll have to expand this anyway. I want to make sure I have that redundancy, especially since I got a really good deal on these drives. So, and they're 7200 RPM. They're not necessarily the preferred drives to go into a server like this. So I would be more likely that one could fail, less likely that 2 will fail. So I'll go with the RAID 1 configuration here. And I'm using this as a backup system, but of course you can set it up if you have surveillance stations, everything else. The one thing I love about Synology is that they have the multi-platform support. So they support Linux out of the box. You could see the software packages were there. So they definitely have support across the board for any of its user bases, and that I absolutely love. So that's why I definitely wanted one of these, and I think it's a much better solution than some of the prefabricated, sometimes cheaper, like you could get a Western Digital MyBook Live with the hard drive in it for a lot cheaper, but keep in mind it's only got one hard drive in there, so if that fails, what's the point? So now it's restarting our DiskStation after it has done its load and everything is coming back online. I see a lot of blinking lights over there on the Synology, and I can't hear it, which is great. It definitely has a good noise dampening in there. I would say it's probably about 4 or 5 feet from me at the moment. So it has to be pretty loud for me to hear it, but I've heard some bad things about those HGST hard drives being loud, but not experiencing that at the moment. Install the latest DRM version automatically. Install important updates automatically. Download DSM updates, install them manually. That's all right. Run smart tests to check the health of my hard drives periodically. Enable bad sector warning for drives. Okay, that looks good. So I'll know when those drives are going bad. So now it asks me if I want to install Synology's recommended packages. These packages will help you get started with DSM effortlessly. A photo station, video station, media server, audio station, hyper backup, cloud station server, and download station. It'll be interesting if I click install whether it installs them for Linux. Let's just see. So indeed this does install all the packages, but it installs them within its own platform. What I didn't realize, and maybe this was dumb on my part, but I didn't realize that this installed all the applications and things within the NAS itself. So there is no compatibility issues that you have to worry about because you can access those apps from within the device. What you're seeing here is the launch screen. So when you first get it, you're going to launch the Synology Assistant, which I would show you, but it displays all the IP addresses and everything. But it's just a simple box and you click connect. It shows your actual server, your IP address. You just click connect. It's a GUI software. You don't have to type any IPs in or try to find it. It finds it on the network. You click the connect button. You're going to get a browser window that opens, and this is your interface into this device. And man, is it awesome. Let me show you here. Everything is very well laid out. Let's start from the beginning. As far as where they place everything, finding what you need, it's all very simplified. You're not going to have to spend hours and hours figuring this out. I had no experience with this device at all and was quickly, almost immediately able to navigate to what I needed to get to. So the first thing you're going to see is this package center. Of course, you have a main menu here that shows you all of the main things that you have installed, file stations, security advisors. These are some of the apps like Hyper Backup or Audio Station we selected beforehand. Storage Manager, Resource Monitor, which is fantastic. It shows you CPU and RAM usage, but it also displays IP address. So I'm not going to click on that here because I'd rather not have to spend all my time blacking out different portions of Windows and things like that for stuff that's not super important for you to see. If you get one of these, you can explore that on your own, but the Resource Monitor is a very cool option here. Now what we're going into is the Package Center. The Package Center is where you can really start to see the power of this device and the things that it's capable of doing. Now keep in mind, anytime you first load up anything, you can see that it takes a little bit of time. And again, this thing only has 256 megabytes of RAM on it. If I'd got one of the upgraded versions, this would go a little quicker, but it's certainly within the acceptable realm, and you can keep these things up and running, especially while you're working on it, and it's not going to take as long. So right now, what it defaults to is showing you everything that's been installed on this device. So you can see I have Audio Station, Cloud Station Server, File Station, Hyper Backup, Media, Photo, PHP, Universal Search, and a Video Station. But it also has a recommended, and then what I want to do is show you the all section, because this is where the device sings. This is where it became something that was, oh, this is cool, I'm going to do a video on it, and became one of the most exciting products that I've played with this year because of all the capabilities of this thing. Now, again, my recommendation, go with the little more expensive version with the 512 or even one of the higher up versions if you can afford it. If you can't, then this is going to be fine. But some of these features, obviously, you're going to want some more power behind them so that you're not having to deal with slowness. Now, for what I'm using it for, what my primary plan was for a backup, it's going to work just fine. But if you want to use this as a server, then you may want to add a little more power, and that's where this thing will blow you away. So once all of this loads, I'm going to show you all of these options out here, and keep in mind it's also performing backups on 2 of my computers right now. You can see it's performing a backup right now on this machine because I've added a bunch of photos from my phone, and it's grabbed those automatically and started moving those because those are some of the folders that I have set up. So that's why you're seeing a little bit more slowness here than what I've experienced typically with this device, because it's backing that up as well as my MacBook, which I did a bunch of work while I was on a trip. So in any case, you can see this Antivirus Essential, which they do recommend you a 512 megabyte version to run this, or you may have some slowness issues. Card DAV server, CloudStation, directory servers, Cloud Syncs, CloudStation Share Sync, exFAT Access, File Stations, Glacier Backups, Java, Log Centers, Office Servers, Radius, Synology, VPN servers, Web Stations, WebDAV, USB copies, Apache HTTP servers, all of these things. Some of this stuff, I don't even know what it does. Some of them are just so exciting for me to see. You can obviously set up WordPress on this. You can set up a Plex server on this, Ruby server, PHP servers. I mean, it's just endless the amount of things that you can do with this device, and I think that's so cool. And then, of course, these are all categorized sections underneath that for all of these tools. So imagine what you can do with this little device. Instead of having to go out and buy a whole computer and set it up as a server, you could pick up one of these, click install, and everything in this is just, it's so GUI interfaced and simple, and yet within there's enough advanced options that if you're an advanced user, you can really get in there and change the settings to your preferences. So that's a little bit about the package center there and the availabilities. Of course, you've got your control panel, which will allow you to add users and groups and make various changes to your network, your themes, your notifications, setting up shared folders, etc. I have an external USB drive connected to this. I just wanted to check it out, so I grabbed a My Passport drive and plugged it in the back. It found it. The only thing I had to do there was set some permissions to read and write, which again I did through a GUI. You don't have to go through any terminal or be experienced in the terminal to utilize that feature at all. On the file station itself, this is where you can search for files that are on your device. And of course, as you know, I'm running a backup, simultaneous backups at the same time. So this may take a second, but you can see this is my USB drive here that I had to share on. And you'll know that because if I click on it, it's actually going to show you the backups that I performed on an earlier video this week with the back in time and time shift applications. So it pulls those up. If I go to the home, it's going to show the backups that it's done on these machines through the Cloud Station. And I'll show you both of those here for the 2 machines that I have this set up on so far. Under backup, we've got my, of course, Manjaro, my main machine here, and we have my MacBook Pro. And I can go in there and start looking at the folders that are within that I've backed up, set up to be backed up within those folders, and most of that is my home, my personal folders within there. So now what I'm going to show you is the actual drive backup software on my machine, so you can see where I set up and what files I have to back this up. So what you see now is the Cloud Station backup. You can see it's moving those folders over. If I go in here into settings, this is where I chose, once I set this up, everything that I wanted it to go in and back up. And I probably need to go and uncheck some of these boxes here. But the main and most important things for me were all of these documents. I wanted to make sure if I make a video or record videos that those get backed up and I don't lose them. Those are the most important things to me. You may have other things that are very important to you, and you could set those up as well. And you can have it so that you start Cloud Station backup upon user login. Of course, you have the 2-factor authentication. as well as they have another piece of software that I've installed, and there are others that I haven't even, which is your CloudStation Drive. Now, the drive allows me to say, hey, if I have documents on my MacBook or I add something to that folder, I want you to go ahead and add it to the documents in this machine so that anywhere I go, I've got access to both of those files, and you can get that set up as well. So hopefully this video allows you to see the pure power of this, the ability to set up any kind of server that you want, even an email server, right with the click of a button is so impressive. And it just has endless capabilities that you can do with it outside of just being a backup solution. And that's why I've fallen in love with this. So leave your comments below. Let me know what you think of this Synology system. Are you going to pick one up? Is this the next NAS tool that you are going to utilize? Have you utilized one before? How do you love it? This thing's got 5 stars all day long. Everybody raves about them. Now I understand why. I wanted to see why is just a backup system so awesome to people. What's different about it than any of these other options that I've played with from a personal home computing standpoint? And now I see, my eyes have been opened. This will definitely be on the 2017 Christmas must buy for you geek in your life list that I put out before holiday season. This is one of those things that if you get your geek, they will love you forever and ever. And until next time, get out there and fill your brains.
Don't get subscribed. Does not like the video.